Hey, so I'm here today with Scott McCracken of Schmidt Legal Services. Scott is a local lawyer who practices real estate, wills and estate, corporate, and employment laws. Thanks for being here today, Scott.
Hey, no problem. Glad I could help out.
Great. So today we're going to actually really concentrate on talking about real estate specifically, obviously residential real estate, as well as cover a couple things as it relates to the Landlord Tenant Act and some issues that are coming up as it relates to COVID-19. So let's get started. We had some people submit some questions. So question number one, what would you recommend for people in the event that they've already purchased a home? So they purchased a home firm, they're set to close in a short period of time, and as a result of COVID-19, they're no longer able to close. So common situations is that perhaps they had a house to sell, it wasn't conditional on them selling their house, and now they're not able to sell their house. What would your thoughts and recommendations be on someone in those situations?
Well, I'm going to start by saying anything that I say here today is not legal advice. It's just information from a lawyer. And I guess it's trying times for everybody at this point in time. Everyone is, curious on what's going to happen with every kind of market and this, and there's a lot of people that are struggling on both ends. For a house that's been sold, that is a binding contract. They are to go through with the contract, and if they don't, there could be damages as a result. I would suggest, as soon as the buyer or seller knows they're not going to be able to close, to reach out to the lawyers on the other side, or the agents or whoever, and just get that information out there and keep document everything, because in these times everyone needs to kind of work together, I would say, and hopefully come to some sort of thing, in terms of an extension or something that could work out to help hopefully get the deal to go through, or release somebody from a deal if that's the case. Again, I understand that you're not going to want to release somebody from a real estate transaction because you don't know when you're going to be able to sell again, and that could definitely be difficult. But the fact of the matter is, if you don't close on a deal, and as you can't relist a property, or you could relist a property, I guess, but not in these times. And if you have to pursue damages, it goes through a court, and that's going to take a long time because the courts are closed right now. So moral of the story is just work together and hopefully come to a resolution that satisfies everybody.
Okay, yeah, that is some good advice. And although not legal advice, just a opinion of two people talking.
It's some good information, maybe we'll say.
Just good information. Okay, yeah.
That works for me.
So in terms of, you did bring it up, people on the market. So there's obviously a lot of people that are still in a position in which they need to sell, and we still do have homes listed. So from your perspective, is there any specific risk for sellers that currently have people coming through their homes right now? What can they be doing to mitigate some of that risk associated with having people come through their house that obviously could potentially be sick and not know it, or the homeowner themselves could be sick and not know it?
Yeah, so there's definitely risk having people come through the house. I would advise to take all necessary precautions, hand sanitizer, wash your hands, and hope that, and even advise the agents that are coming through and the people that are coming through to do the same. I've heard people ask about whether or not there's any legal repercussions if somebody gets sick. Again, there's really no case law to say one way or the other what's going to happen. I can't say there's no case law because I have never seen case law, but everything is so new here that I would just say, I would assume there's going to be some sort of assumption of risk by going into random people's houses and that kind of stuff. And it'd be really hard to point to how anybody contracted this disease, but that's more for a microbiologist or a doctor to answer. So I would just, again, advocate to do all necessary precautions. Make sure you keep things clean. You could even have gloves, I suppose, when people are walking through the house. Obviously, don't touch your face, but I'm not a doctor, so that's the question that you have in terms of risk and for people coming through your house and having to sell. That's what I would say to that, anyways.
Yeah, no, good, certainly good advice. And something else I wanted to talk about, because we've had this question a lot, and you and I have actually dealt with some of these. So obviously homes are still closing. So we do have the registry office is still open. Yourself as a lawyer, myself as a realtor, we're still essential service providers right now. But closing is obviously looking a little bit different right now. So can you walk us through what a typical closing has looked like in the last week with these new parameters about face-to-face meetings and everything in place?
Yeah, so everything is going through as normal as it can be. We do have word from the director of land titles at the registry office that there's no intention of closing, which is good, so we can still register. Most of our stuff is done digitally anyways, mortgage instructions and that. The only biggest hiccup is that we had to have documents signed in person. The Law Society has allowed us to do meetings over Zoom, or there's actually a Lawyer Done Deal website that has a platform that we can now use to meet clients. The only issue that I've seen with that is some banks aren't allowing remotely signed documents. They need to be physically signed documents. And in those cases, what I recommend is, we'll do everything over a conference like this, go through every single document, explain everything so that the signing process, if it has to be in front of myself or another lawyer, we can get it done quickly. So it's just kind of signing, you're in, you're out, you're on your way kind of thing. But in terms of a typical process, it's a little more legwork for meetings like this, spending a lot more time on the phone, going through documents and, scanning them in and sending them off to the client to meet and sign. But, so far it's been fairly good. And I've actually found that banks are working quite well with us. We're getting money into the accounts fairly quickly. Again, just in, Northumberland County, a lot of the banks don't open until 11 o'clock. So if you're buying and selling on the same day, it's going to be pretty tight timing because there's big lineups at the bank and, we're kind of hamstrung by that. So,
Okay.
so if you have a closing on, say, a Friday and you're selling, I just advise that you might not get your money until the following Monday, because if we get money on the sale at like 4 o'clock, we can't get to the bank to put it into your account. We can set up for wires, but again, wires aren't instantaneous either. So unfortunately, in this day and age, a physical check is still the fastest way to get money into somebody's account. So.
Okay, so you are, and that actually leads to my next question. So are you finding on closing day itself, are closings happening later than typical right now?
Yeah, they were always up in the air when they were going to close, but for us, for an example, we can't even get into our bank until 11 o'clock in the morning. So even if we have all the money and ready to go, we can't get into our bank till 11 o'clock to transfer the funds to the other lawyer. And again, we can set up wires, but I've seen wires take anywhere from 15 minutes to 3 hours. So, when you do a check, it's at least in there and you can confirm. Sometimes you have to do a wire, you don't have a choice. And there's some banks that aren't set up, or some people that aren't set up for wires, obviously. So it's just be patient and hopefully that we can get everything done. I've had a few deals with no real issue, but that doesn't mean there's not going to be any issues. So.
Yeah, absolutely. So in terms of when it comes to closings, definitely don't count on having any moving happening early in the morning or even early in the afternoon. And I think when all possible, try not to close on a Friday, which I think is something we try to avoid as it is, but definitely under these current circumstances, try not to.
Yeah, or at least be aware of the risk that may happen. If you want to close on a Friday, that's fine. Just don't be counting on that money in your account by the end of the day Friday. Okay. Just to be safe,
Yeah. So the next set of questions that I have, so that's it, is for the most part as it relates to the residential transaction, but we have had a lot of questions as it relates to specifically around tenancy and landlord-owned properties. So the first one is, if you've purchased a house that a tenant is currently living in, it's pretty common that in the event that the buyer wants to move into the property, they would have to be served with a form that essentially allows for vacant possession. Now, currently speaking, there's some rules that have changed around that. So can you still guarantee a vacant possession of a home that you purchased that currently has a tenant in it?
Short answer is no, you cannot. In order to guarantee an eviction, you need to have an eviction order through the Landlord Tenant Board pursuant to the Residential Tenancies Act. And the Landlord Tenant Board is not open for business at the moment. So if you have a client or you are trying to sell a tenant property or buy a tenanted property, you can't guarantee vacant possession right now. Doesn't mean you can't get vacant possession after the fact. This COVID-19 has stopped all hearings, but it has not stopped a landlord's ability to serve notice. So you can still serve notices, but if the tenant decides that they don't want to move out or can't move out for whatever reason, they're self-isolating, what have you, you can't get that order to the Landlord Tenant Board, and you can't force them out. So just be very wary of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so just to be clear, this is something that I know has come up, a lot of people have asked about, is that tenants cannot currently be evicted, or the evictions can't be forced right now is the issue.
No, they can't be evicted. You can still serve notice on tenants, but again, you're gonna have to get it in front of a board and the landlord tenant board, and that's, they're backlogged already. So I could imagine it's going to be quite a while before you're going to get any kind of hearing. And I would, recommend, again, be civil with everybody, and hopefully you can work out some sort of negotiation and, figure out what works for best for everybody here.
Okay. So that actually leads to the next question. Accounting for the fact that obviously you can't currently force an eviction to take place, what do you do in the event that you're a landlord and the tenants cannot pay rent? As I know that's something that's come up a lot in terms of April 1st. There's actually a bit of a campaign going to not pay rent on the first of the month. So if you're a landlord in a situation where your tenant has refused to pay rent, either because they can't or they choose not to, what would you recommend to a landlord in that situation?
Again, these are trying times for everybody. The reason behind the tenant not being able to pay their rent may very well be valid. I'm sure that it is. Again, the landlord tenant board is shut down, but you can still serve notices pursuant to the act. The N4 notice for non-payment of rent, you can still serve that and start the application. You're just not going to get in front of a board. And what's likely going to happen is when you do get a hearing, you're going to go there. And I would really recommend that landlords and tenants kind of work for a negotiation, because I don't know what the landlord tenant board is going to do, but I would imagine that anything coming up, in a hearing, it's not going to be looked favorably upon somebody who is trying to evict somebody who is self-isolating and can't work or whatever, who's been affected by this disease. I mean, it's, again, these are kind of uncharted waters. We don't really know what's going to happen, but I would just, you can still serve your notice and then, try and work together through everybody with this, and try to figure out a way to kind of, help each other out as best we can. So.
Absolutely. And the last question as it relates to that, so in terms of, there's a lot of people that own investment properties right now that due to the current circumstances are looking to put them on the market and sell them, likely to essentially get that extra equity to help support them in their future endeavors, which has caused a bit of an issue around showings. So for anyone that's trying to sell a property that's currently occupied by a tenant, what are the rights in terms of allowing showings currently for both the tenant and the landlord?
Again, that's, fairly difficult, because you've got, on the one hand, you've got, a tenant, if the tenant doesn't want to allow someone to come in and show the house, you're kind of interfering with the landlord's right to sell the property. So it's, you can still serve notice, and the landlord may be able to sue the tenant afterwards if they're not allowing it. But, again, it's going to take a long time to get something in front of the courts. I would recommend, if you're a landlord trying to sell the property and you absolutely, like, if you don't have to, don't sell it. Just wait till after. But for whatever reason, if you have to, or you're trying to sell it, there's some sort of situation of dire need here. Again, you're not going to be able to guarantee that the tenant's going to comply. And I would, you'd serve your notice to vacate, or notice, that your regular notice 24 hours that you're coming in to show the property. If the tenant refuses access, again, keep the regular notice. I think it was seven days, I believe. And then you can serve another application for interference. But again, you're not going to get in front of a board for a long time. So just be diligent, keep notes of everything that you've done. And, once this is done, you may be able to get an order. I don't know how the landlord tenant board is going to look at this, but, that'd be the way that I would imagine it's going to go, is that you just, keep diary of everything that you've done. Make sure you're still abiding by the RTA from your perspective, whether you're a landlord or a tenant. And it's really, I'm sorry, it's not really a definitive answer, but it's the best I can do.
No, I think in terms of kind of the key message it seems through everything is that, at the end of the day, there's not a court system open in which you can really take many legal measures right now. So the best, situation is try to work with everyone to be as cooperative as possible. I actually did have a client who was in that situation, and what they were doing, which I thought was really kind of an innovative, kinder approach to it, is that blocking time showing so that showings were all happening around the same time, not overlapping, but in the same time. And then what they were doing was giving a gift certificate to a takeout service. so that the tenants could go get takeout and sit in their cars. So again, trying to make the best out of a worse situation, because, you know, we have to understand that it's important for the home to be shown, but at the same point in time, it's not like the tenant can go and sit at Tim Hortons right now and kill time while that's happening. So everybody trying to kind of work collaboratively together to find a solution.
Right.
So I know you mentioned in terms of kind of, you obviously don't want to give legal advice, and I don't want to put you on the spot, but we do have a really important question that's been on everybody's mind that I want to get your opinion on. In your legal opinion, did Carroll Baskin kill her husband?
I refrain to comment on that one, but
okay.
I heard that she tasted great, or he tasted great, Tony the Tiger. These trying times, I can't believe that Tiger King has been such a, I don't know of anybody who hasn't watched it yet. It seems to be all the rage these days. So it's
it does, yeah. You know what I can say in terms of, I definitely think she did it. I don't care what anybody says. I think you know what, that guy's under a septic tank or fed to a tiger somewhere.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I feel like we're only seeing one side of the story too. Really, we're kind of seeing it from Mr. Exotic's point of view. So I don't know what would happen on the other end, but this kind of reminds me of Making a Murderer. This kind of reminds me of Making a Murderer and how that was all the rage a couple of years ago. You know, you only see one side of the story, so it's easy to paint a picture on one side of the story. But
it is true. It is sensationalized. It is a television show. I do actually I have heard that she has her own website now telling her perspective on it. So
does she? Okay.
Yeah, but haven't dived into that as of yet. So that being said, anything else that you want to add in terms of kind of the things that have been coming up that you've been seeing, or advice on anything, or do you think you've kind of covered everything?
No, it's still fairly new. Not really in real estate. We just had a course that we could take on the processes, which I've kind of went through here on real estate. Everything is changing, and I expect that there's going to be more changes as this goes along. I don't know how long it's going to last, but as it seems right now, everything is still kind of trucking along normally, as normal as it can be, normally, as it were.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope that everything should be, back to normal eventually. It's just, keep posted, and thank you for doing this, Jacqueline. This is great. I'm happy to help out wherever I can. There's, in terms of real estate and landlord tenant stuff, it's an ever evolving issue, and I guess the future will tell what happens. Just hope everyone can stay civil and not have to hire lawyers to sue people after all this is over, hopefully. I mean, or hopefully we do, I guess. I mean, technically I want to make money, but not like through this kind of thing. So,
which is a great segue. So for anyone that is looking to hire a lawyer to sue someone when this is all said and done, no, just kidding. If someone is looking for actual legal advice, where can people find you?
So I'm my email address is scott@schmidtlegalservices.com. You can phone us at the office 289-436-0113. I'm happy to help you out with any. We cover everything there, from civil litigation to real estate, will of estates, corporate, commercial, all that kind of stuff. And we've got someone there that can help you out. So if you have any questions, please give me a call. And if you actually want real legal advice and not just information from a lawyer, I'd be happy to help you out with that. So.
Okay, perfect. And we will certainly link to that information below. So thanks again, Scott, for taking time to chat with us today. I know you're pretty busy, and you take care.
And thank you for not making me stand up.
No problem.
Thanks.